everyone. Good day, good day, good day. My name is Sandra Yahebi, and I am your host for this month's topic of the month. And topic of the month today is suicide among young people. So I'm going to be speaking with Dr. Danielle about today's topic. All right, so I'm going to be speaking with Dr. Danielle about today's topic. I'll bring her on shortly, but just for those who are not aware, thank you guys. Welcome, Moet. Welcome, welcome. For those who are not aware, we have a topic every month at Psych Bible Foundation, and please just let me know if you can hear me. If you can hear me loud and clear, just say I hear you or you wave, whichever is fine, so I know that you can hear me loud and clear. If you can hear me, just wave or say I hear you. I would wait. Hi Josie. Hi Chisom. Can you hear me? Can you guys? Okay, thank you Moed. Thank you. I hope I'm getting your name correctly. So yes, this is Psych Bible Foundation. Psych Bible Foundation is a youth-led non-governmental organization raising awareness for mental health here in Nigeria and in Africa, right? And every month we have a topic of the month on different mental health related topics. And this month we are looking at suicide and mental health among young people. Why we included in mental health is because there are so many other reasons why people decide to take their own lives, all right? So I'm just going to bring Dr. Daniel on because we do not want to waste your time. Quite fast and short. So what I mean by that is it's going to be hello Anna K. It's going to be just under 40 minutes. Hi, Dr. Danielle.
Hi, how are you?
I'm fine. It's been a minute. How are you?
I'm so good. I'm excited to have this conversation today. But yeah, I'm good. I just got back from traveling in Hawaii and yeah, just enjoying life. How
That's
about you?
great. That's great. I'm fine. I just got back from work actually. But it's been good. It's been good. All right. I mean, it's been a long time we had a chat, or we just spoke or whatever. It's been a while, so
Yeah,
it's good to have you here.
I know.
So again,
I love that you're
yeah, go
doing these
ahead.
conversations is it every single week? But I love that you're
Every
doing these
month, every
conversations
month,
every
every
month.
month.
Awesome.
Okay. Hi Anna K. I'm so sorry about that. Um, Anna says she lost her beautiful son to suicide
Mm.
8 months ago, and he was 23 years old. I am so sorry about that, Anna. Again, like I had mentioned, the topic we're discussing today is suicide among young people. So I'm just going to pin that in. While I pin that, Dr. Daniel, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Sure. So my background, so I'm from San Diego, California, and I've got my master's degree at San Diego State. I'm a licensed clinical social worker, and then I got my doctorate at California Southern University in psychology. But during those years, I worked at an inner city high school in San Diego that I've worked with just, all teenagers, and the majority of what I did was suicidal ideation, assessment, as well as
Hmm.
intervention. So that's a little bit about my background. I love to surf. I have
Yes,
family
you do.
in Colorado. I have family in California and Hawaii. And Utah.
That's great. That's great. I'm so happy that you have these experiences because that means you're the perfect person to have this conversation with, right? Have you worked with young people, particularly on, say, suicide, or that is in therapy or in mental health space? Have you worked with young people?
Absolutely. That's kind of what I was just saying. I worked at a high school, the inner city, and
Okay.
the majority of what I did was suicidal assessment and ideation and intervention.
Oh, that's amazing. That's amazing. All right. Let's just hop into this. First of all, for basic knowledge, because I like to assume that in this part of the world, where I am, that a lot of people are not quite aware of what mental health is, what exactly suicide might be, and all of those things. So, would you say that mental health is the only reason why people take their own life? Like mental health related issues are the only reason why people would decide to take their own life.
No, not necessarily. No. That's not the only reason. There's actually, well, we can kind of go into some statistics and then we'll talk more, teen wise. But one of the
Okay,
most
great.
major, there's three top life stressors that contribute to committing suicide. So not feeling suicidal. So I really want to make sure we have differentiation here. There's
Okay.
suicidal ideation, like I have ideas of it, and then there's actually
Hmm.
committing it. And, obviously they cross, but the majority of what we do see is the ideation because we want to do the intervention, right? But physical illness is one of the top three. So someone who's struggling with chronic pain and they're just like, I can't take it anymore. The second one is unemployment is a major stressor, life stressor that contributes. And especially when you're a sole provider, that's why we see this in a lot more, actually, statistically, the group of people that commit this suicide at the highest rate are males in their 60s and above. And it's usually
Oh,
that job
really?
type
This is
related.
this is
Yeah.
in the US?
Most of my statistics are US, yes. I don't know if
Okay,
that one's
okay,
world. I have some that are world, but yes. So most of it is
okay.
60s. And this is because of life transitions, either divorce or career, and just like not wanting to start over. The number one issue that people commit suicide, just in general, are financial concerns. So
Mm,
stress, so you can see that they probably relate when they're all three. So it's not necessarily mental health related, but before we go into that, I just want to talk about the two contraries here that even start suicidal thinking are going to be, you got two contraries. You got a mindset of like hope, and you got a mindset of hopelessness. So those are your two
mm,
contraries. And
okay.
so when the hopelessness sets in for whatever reason, I'm never going to be out of chronic pain in my body. I'm never, just that hopelessness. That's when the ideation starts to set in, the ideas.
That is amazing. And I'm glad that you kind of like, pinpointed that out, that it's two different things to have suicidal ideation and to actually take one's own life, right?
Mhm.
I like that you pointed that out because a lot of times people just say, "Oh, I think this person is suicidal because they've been, talking about death a lot. They've been doing this, they've been doing that." I get people say that, and sometimes you then assess this person and they're not actually suicidal. They're not
Mhm.
suicidal. They just, for
Yeah.
some reason, maybe something is happening. They happen to talk about death a whole lot more than they would on a normal day. You mentioned these three factors or these three,
Life
contributing
stressors.
factors. Yes, life
Mhm.
stressors. Yes. Particularly, I like the life transition, right? I like to mention that because sometimes people just think maybe it's, somebody who is mentally unstable, someone who is chronically ill or something of that nature. But people forget that there are so many other stressors or so many other things that could be a triggering factor for certain people. I know people who I remember in my practice about 2 years ago. Um, if one of my clients had become suicidal because she had recently relocated to a whole new country. She was not adapting well. She was not adapting well. She had no family, no friends, nothing, all alone in a whole new country, and she was experiencing bits of racism. She was, feeling alone. Career wise, she wasn't really feeling as much progress as she had intended to. So all of those things just kind of contributed to her feeling that way. So I just wanted us to I wanted to hit on that a little bit more because people need to understand that there are so many factors. It's not just the
Mhm.
fact that my mind is not here, or I'm mentally sick, or I don't know, any terminal illness. So that means automatically I'm just
Mhm.
going to take my own life.
Right.
Anna, I'll just quickly want to mention something. Please, if you have questions for Dr. Danielle or myself, just leave them in the question sticker. At the bottom of your screen, you should see a box or, a question mark. So just hit on it and leave us your questions or contributions, whatever, and we'll be able to discuss that. Because if you keep leaving comments, they'll just keep going above and we won't see them. So I just wanted to stress on that. Yes, Dr. Danielle, you're going to say something.
Well, I do think it's important to understand it's really a mindset of hopelessness, and there are a lot of factors that can contribute to that. I know in majority we do see, not majority, I shouldn't say that, but high numbers of alcohol and drugs do contribute, abusive environments,
Mm-hmm.
serious illness, mental disorders, modeling is really actually a high
Yeah.
rate as well. Changes, like you said, transitions. There are a lot of things, but that lead to that mindset of hopelessness versus hope. Like, and so we call it like a dichotomous thinking where it's just so rigid, like it's never going to get better versus
Mm.
having this idea, well, it sucks right now. Life sucks right now, and I'm going to get out of this. And, but it really, in sometimes you can have someone who doesn't have any of these factors and they have like wonderful parents and wonderful environment and but still can struggle with the thoughts of hopelessness.
Yeah.
So it is it is a tricky, you know, situation when you're dealing with someone who is suicidal, because especially as a parent, I know you said Anna had said that, and it's just, gosh, it's how do you do that? How do you constantly make sure they're safe? My cousin, who also, well, she had struggled with drug addiction and she was under watch. You know, my uncle was there 24/7 with her because it was so high, and she still found a way to take her own
Yeah.
life. And it's heartbreaking. And so I just want to acknowledge that for some people, that no one is to blame. Hopelessness type of thinking is very difficult. And I want to talk about just a couple things to give some hope in this scenario. But
Yes, please.
most people, I think when we talk about this, it gets to be like, whoa, this is so big, and it is big. And teens, I think, talk about it more than any other population, which is good. We want people talking about it. The higher risk people are those that don't say a word and go do it, and you're like, wait, what?
Mm.
And that does happen. And
Comes
so
up as a
teens
shock.
talk about it the most, which is so good. So most people, though, I just want you guys to know, faced with difficult situations, never attempt suicide. So I think a lot of times what happens is, you know, when media or people hear about it, it can sometimes you think, well, that sounds like that's the best way to deal with my problems as well. But if we can kind
Mm-hmm.
of normalize, well, actually, most people don't resort to that. And so I think that helps. But some other buffer factors are that they have found in research is religion. Having, and I think religion for a lot of reasons, the community, finding maybe purpose, serving others, a relationship or belief in a higher being, and then also feeling like you belong somewhere, whether that be in a family or, you know, a community or a garden community, whatever it may be. So those are some buffer factors that help. So when I work with teens, and a lot of times when I would assess, you know, if they think about taking their life, and I would say about 7 out of 10 would say yes. And so we a couple things, you know, we would look at is, well, what do they love to do? Where's their joy?
Mm.
Where what do they like to create? And if it's
Yeah.
someone who loves to cook, then we'll get on, this is how I assess. We'll get on like Pinterest, and I'll say, what kind of foods do you like to cook? And then they'll show me, and I'm like, really? Wow, that's so cool. And let's find a recipe you can practice this weekend. Now, this
Mm-hmm.
is huge. The reason I'm doing this is because I want to see, can they grasp onto some hope?
That's hope. Yes.
Can they tap into creativity? And will they make a future plan? So, this is the important piece, because someone who is suicidal does not have future plans and will not make future plans because they're ending their life. And so, so we really look for terminal thinking. And if they've cleaned out their locker, or they've cleaned out their bag, or they've said bye to people, they've given away stuff, they're just like, nope, I'm not going to be at that party. I am not going to cook something or
True.
whatever. So tapping into that either terminal thinking or something hopeful or creative, and helping them feel excited or purpose or joy in something is a huge piece that we can each do, whether you're an auntie or a mom or a sister, whatever it is.
Wow, that is amazing. And I am going to start using that particular one in my practice. I am going to take that into my own practice. with clients, because I know how difficult it is to have a client who is suicidal. So, you have to put them on like suicide watch for as long as possible, right? So you mentioned something about dealing and managing community, right? So I know this should be ideally it should be like the last thing we talk about when usually when you're having conversations like this, but I want it to be like the very first thing. So how do we help somebody like without, so there's no therapist, this person is not willing to see a therapist, they're not willing to
Hmm.
take any form of mental health care, so how do I help somebody who is suicidal? What do I do?
If they're not willing to do anything, is that what you're saying?
They're not, yes, they're not willing to do anything, they're not willing to see a
Hmm.
therapist, they're not willing to, they're just leave me alone and I just want to be by myself. What do we do? How do I help
Yeah.
that person?
That's a good question. And I don't know if there's exactly one answer, but there are a lot of situations like that. You can do
Hmm.
as much as you can, and they're just, nope, they're just determined. So I would say that, again, if we look at the core, this is hopelessness. Is there
Hmm.
anything that they can find hope in? Even if it's like, I'm going to go get ice cream for the weekend. Like, it doesn't matter. Just anything that you can find that they enjoy. Another big trigger is worthlessness. People who feel worthless. There's low self-esteem, and I think the majority of the world, we do struggle as just a human being with those types of thoughts. So it's, where can they feel worth? Is that creating a relationship with um, someone in their family? Is that creating a relationship with a higher, divine being? Is it, where can they feel worth? Where can they feel hope and hope, hopeful thinking? So when all, those are two things I would say. But the other thing I would say is, most of the time when they have done autopsies on people who have committed suicide, they're low in serotonin. So serotonin
Hmm.
is a happy neurotransmitter, and maybe it's having a hard time with reuptake. So you could talk to somebody getting on meds to help with that. There's also foods you can increase to help increase serotonin. And there's also, as you know, I use essential oils that help increase serotonin. And so the oils that help with serotonin are going to be clary sage, citrus essential oils. So anything like lemon, orange, tangerine, grapefruit, those really help as well. Trying to think off the top of my head because I didn't plan on talking about that. Anyway, I think the Siberian fir. So there's a few that really help with increasing serotonin that you can diffuse into your home.
Hmm.
You can have them put it on their wrist so they can smell it
Smell
and
it.
increase those foods. Blueberries are high in serotonin. Dark chocolate, which I'm a fan of. I'm trying to think of some of the others. Gosh, I didn't write my list down. Oh, salmon, some fish. So anyway,
Okay.
those are high in omegas, which are good for the brain. So you can look at some diet, some essential oils, as well as activities. So a
Hmm.
feeling of belonging and self-worth are going to be the key.
Okay. I think that's amazing. Thank you so much for identifying that, because a lot of times, especially on this page, we get people reach out and they're like, "Oh, help! My friend is about to take their life, but they don't want to see a therapist. They don't want help. They don't want anything. What do I do? How do I help?" Or I know someone who's been, I feel like they've been talking a lot about suicide, and I'm worried about them, but they don't want any form of help. What do I do? How do I
Yeah.
go about it? I think this is really, really important, particularly
Yeah.
about the happy hormones. That's something that people don't realize, and I think that's also when it comes to depression, that's also something very important, because I realized with some of my clients, and even in my own personal life, when you feel sad, for example, or you feel defeated or something, or maybe you just wake up on the wrong side of the bed and you don't want to get up,
Yeah.
you don't want to get up from the bed. The more sit in there, you cover the duvet, you're like, you know what, I don't want to go to work today, I don't want to do anything, I'm feeling down, I'm feeling sad. Chances are you may continue feeling that way. But the moment you get up, you say, okay, yeah, I'm feeling bad, but let me just take a shower. You take a shower, okay, let me get something to eat. You get something to eat, okay, let me do this, let me watch a movie. Before you know what's happening, your mood kind of improves, because you're doing
Hmm.
things that ideally you would, you like watching a movie, you like to eat, you like, those are the things that you generally enjoy doing. So it kind of like, I think those are some things that also help to increase serotonin. I'm also thinking community. You mentioned community, and that's something super, super important. People are not where we are in that generation where a lot of people want to be isolated. Everybody's I'm a lone ranger, if you're this kind of person, I'm going to cut you off. If I notice you're not beneficial for me, I'm cutting you off. And then you're cutting and cutting and cutting everyone off. Before you know what's happening, you're all alone, right? I feel like a lot of people are not understanding the importance of community and having people actually around you, because those are some of the things that are really, really important, in my opinion, right? Especially for your mental health, because when days are dark, when things are really hard for you, those are the people that would, reach out and pull you up, right? So I think that's really important. And thank you so much for answering that
Yeah.
question about, how to help
Well,
somebody.
and I want to say
Yeah.
something on that. You said something important, and that's those baby steps. Like,
Mm.
you can't expect someone who barely wants to get out of bed to go, hey, let's go to Disneyland today.
Oh, no.
It's like, let's just get out of bed and go get a cup of coffee. It's like,
Hmm.
let's start with the baby steps. And I want to, kind of help people understand too. Emotions have their own spectrum. Okay. So if you like, shame is on the lowest end of the spectrum and enlightenment and joy is on the highest end. So if someone is feeling super low and down and depressed about stuff, we wouldn't expect them to jump a whole bunch of levels and just be happy. It kind of reminds me
Yeah.
the show Friends. I'm sure all of you have seen it. And there's an episode where, Ross and Rachel, of course, we got that whole dynamic, and he is now likes Julie. He likes somebody else. He's done, pining over Rachel, but now she wants him. And so she is just like, oh, I just want to be with Ross, and super going through that grieving stage of losing her, the guy she finally likes. And Monica says, well, just get over it. And she goes,
Mm.
oh yeah, why don't I
Why
just
didn't I
get
think
over
about
it?
it?
Yeah, just get over it. But that's the thing, that's not realistic. We don't just go, oh well, you're
Yeah.
depressed, well, just be happy. What's the next step from feeling low? If someone says, I just don't want to do anything but sit and watch, I just don't want to do anything, then great. We wouldn't want to make them go to Disneyland. It's like, okay, well, should we put on a show? I'll sit with you and put on a show. And so it's always going where people are at, and it's going up that emotion spectrum little by little versus
Yeah.
jumping to
Baby
be
steps.
to be out of it or get over it. It's like,
Mm.
it's that, what's that next stage? That next stage might be, you know what, I'm angry about being depressed, and that's good. Maybe the next stage is, okay, I just don't feel anything.
Yeah.
So there's stages until you feel like, okay, I feel nothing for it. That's good. I feel neutral. And then you go to where, okay, so I can feel peace, and then you go to the next stage. And so I think
That's
those are
right.
important for those of us when you're around someone and trying to help them. Just meet them where they're at, and just what's that next stage you can get them to
That they mean. Yeah. I think that is
versus the
amazing. That
jump.
is amazing. I hope that truly, I hope someone picks that here, because in this part of the world, for those who are not aware, for people who are coming from Dr. Danielle's community, I am in Nigeria. Psych Bible Foundation is a youth-led non-governmental organization in Nigeria providing mental health support. So on this part of the continent, or on this part of the world, we hear that phrase a lot as well. You feel sad and people are like, oh, just get over it or snap out of it. That's a very famous snap out of it. Like it's a wand that you just wave and, everything is well and great again. But for people who have that burning question of how do I help somebody who I think maybe suicidal, I think it's important that we cover that. And most importantly, at the end, when they begin, like Dr. Danielle said, when you notice that they are, closer, they are out of that whole spectrum of feeling frustrated or feeling, sad and all of the, while they are going up the ladder, you can, here and there chip in. How about we see a professional for this? How about we see a therapist for this? Once in a while, chip that in and, let it just be in their subconscious. So when they are ready, whenever they are ready, they see the importance and would actually want to seek out proper help.
Yeah.
All
And
right.
I just want to say on that real quick too.
Mhm.
People don't want to feel like something's wrong with them. They're already beating themselves up, and it's already hopelessness and low self-worth. So
Mhm.
I think it's important to not be like, well, I mean, I think it's good to say, yeah, let's get some help. But I think relating to them too. You don't want to say, you don't want to not say don't get help, but just say, hey, I think this will be really good to talk to someone. I have felt really low before, and talking to someone really helped me. So
Help me,
relating that
yeah.
versus like, you've got a problem, you need help.
You need to,
And
yeah.
I'm using harsh terms to make a point, but I do think the more you can, like when I talk to a lot of families about using essential oils for a child that has some behaviors, and mostly I work with teens, and so a teen that has behaviors, I give them an essential oil regimen. Okay, this is what you're going to do to balance, this serotonin, this behavior, this mood, all that kind of stuff. But what I
Mhm.
tell them is very important. You're not going to just do this on this child only. Okay, this is
Yeah.
going to be all your kids. You do the routine, the essential oil routine. Do not single that kid out as, well, you're the one with the problem, so you're the one that's going to get the treatment.
Yeah. That's
So
amazing.
anytime as a family member or anything going on, just say, you can relate to that. Like, I've had to receive help. In fact, I'm thinking about going back to a therapist, because anytime there's a dynamic, there usually is more things going on. And
Mhm.
as a parent, or as a sibling, the fact, if you have a sibling or something going through that, it'd be good for you to
Mhm.
get some support with the
Yeah.
stuff you're going through with your other siblings. So anyway, just to kind of keep
That is
that
amazing.
normalized and not
I
singled
agree with
out.
that. I agree with that. I completely agree with that. All right, now that we have identified or mentioned what to do, if someone or someone love or care about is suicidal, how about for people who have not even gotten to this point? I'm worried that someone might be suicidal, but I'm not sure. So, what are like the signs to look out for? How can I tell
Ouch.
that someone may be suicidal or a person is thinking about taking their life? How can I tell? What are the warning signs? How do I identify that?
Yeah. Yeah, so I would say your biggest signs are going to be hopelessness and the terminal thinking, like I said. Sorry, something's in my eye. So, terminal
Sorry.
thinking, meaning they cannot think of the future or plan for the future. They start giving away stuff.
Mm-hmm.
That's the signs. But I also think it's actually okay. So, this is a misconception. If I ask them if they're suicidal, am I going to plant the idea? And I will tell you, that's actually a misconception. No. And so a lot of times if you ask someone, say, you showing concern is a huge part, because
Mm-hmm.
they want to feel like they have it's really key that they have someone. In fact, that's one of the key factors in prevention, is that people know they have a safe space that they can talk to someone. That doesn't have to
Yeah.
be a therapist. That can
Yeah.
be grandma, grandpa, uncle, whoever, it doesn't matter. So as long as they have someone. And so that's one thing you can ask them. Do you have somewhere you feel like a safe space? Just so I'm
Mm-hmm.
always there, but do you feel like you have someone that you're comfortable with talking? So ask them that
Yeah.
question. The second thing is, you can just ask them, say, hey, I just really care about you. I can see, like, sounds like you're going through a lot of hard things right now. Is it okay if I just ask you, are you having thoughts of taking your life? So a lot of times what that will do is they might open up and go, and they might go, no, not at all. Okay, good. But they might say, oh, yes, I am. I'm struggling. And it might help them open up and feel like someone can relate to them. Because
Yeah.
again, the key prevention factor is that they have someone to talk to. So instead of having to hide it under a rug, and you ask it gently, they may deny it, but they may still feel like they can talk to you, and that you're going to listen and understand, instead of judge them for
Yeah.
having the thought.
Hmm. That's amazing. That's amazing. So we're looking out for hopelessness and as well as, giving away things and, talking about suicide. But the most important thing is just to ask. I think that's really important because a lot of people think, oh, I can't say it. If I ask someone, are you thinking of taking your own life? If they're not before, I might just give them the idea. But that's not true. It's there. It's just like asking you, would you have tea? That does not mean I'm automatically going to want tea or, any of those things. So I think that's really important. Thank you so much, doctor,
Yeah.
for asking that. Before we move on, I see a question in the question sticker. Please, again, if you have questions, leave them in the question stickers for us. we are talking about suicide among young people, suicide and mental health among young people. So there's a question here. It's still from Anna K. I don't quite understand this one, but here she says,
Oh,
how do we begin conversations around the world suicide? A lot of people
suicide,
fear
yeah.
mentioning the word. Yeah. So how do we go about that conversation? Seeing that a lot of people are scared of even saying the word.
Yeah, that's a great question, Anna. And I think normalizing the thought and
Hmm.
also um, in a non-judgmental context. That's how you go about it. Just go, and I think even just normalizing, because like I said, most people who struggle with difficult situations don't commit suicide. So, but
Mm.
how many of us have ever thought like, you know what, life sucks so bad. I've thought this, you guys. Like, you know what? I'd be okay if I died right now. I don't care to take my life. I don't want to do that. But I have felt so like just so much despair and hopelessness at different situations in my life that I'm just like,
Hmm.
I could die. I don't even care. And so I
Yes.
think normalizing that and in a non-judgmental way and just saying, you know,
Hmm.
sometimes when I've gone through difficult things, because what happens is if you share with someone, I've gone through difficult things and I've thought about just dying. And that doesn't mean suicide. Suicide and dying are two different things, but it still relates, right? I've thought about
It's
dying
still there.
before. Are you feeling similar? And in a non-judgmental way, but what it shows is that, oh wow, you've thought about it, but you overcame it. There was a solution versus that rigid thinking like there's no solution, death is the only. But they
Hmm.
see that you've thought it before and overcome it versus you don't understand me because you've never been there. You don't know where I'm at. You haven't been through my situation. And of course, none of us have been through anybody's situation. It's all different.
Yeah.
So, but we all feel the same emotions. So on the spectrum in different times, and some people more different emotions than others, and that's okay. So I think that's the best way to talk about it is lovingly, non-judgmentally, and relatably. Like how can you relate with it?
I think that's amazing as well. That is it. A lot of times we're always like, how do I do this? How do I do that? Recently on my personal YouTube channel, I posted something about how to ask a friend who you're worried about their mental health, how to start that conversation. And I've actually gotten a lot of people in my DM, maybe not a lot, but quite a number of people in my DMs telling me, oh, this has been really helpful. This is good. This is great. This is because in this part of the world, again, I'm always going to use my part of the world because we are on two different continents, right? So it's always a thing of this person, I think this person has depression. Shh. I think this person is this. Shh. It's not something that people would want to talk about. So generally, when it now comes to a matter like suicide, definitely you're only going to find very few people talking about it. But I believe that the more conversations we have around it, like this, what we are doing right now, we normalize these things, let people know that it's okay. You're not the only person going through this, and it's not your fault that this is happening. So all you just need to do is take baby steps, do this, do that, and seek help when you can, seek support, seek if you need something, ask people around you, ask your friends, ask your family members, ask the people who love you. Make sure you have a loving community that genuinely and truly cares about you. I think those are really important tips. So, Dr. Danielle, I wanted to ask about you mentioned you use essential oils. Again, I know we've had
Mm-hmm.
this conversation before now
Yes.
about essential oils. So, how about you just tell us, have you used essential oils on clients who have been suicidal before? What was the
Mm-hmm.
outcome? Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And this is a good story to end on anyway. So first I'll just kind of tell you what essential oils are. They are these little aromatic
Okay.
compounds that sit on plants, and they're highly concentrated with medicinal benefits. So
Mhm.
what's really cool is they are the medicine for the plant. So like on a citrus
Mhm.
essential oil, for example, on orange, your essential oils sit on the rind and they're protecting that fruit on the inside. So they're not nutrients, they're not vitamin minerals. They're actually these compounds that protect it from viruses, bacteria, and all sorts of things that swarm the environment so that your fruit can grow. So that's an example with citruses anyway. So I have been doing research on them for many years. I did my dissertation on PTSD and aromatherapy. Oh, someone just said they love my book. That's awesome. So that's my book, Aromatherapy and PTSD. And so I've compiled research on which ones interact with serotonin and norepinephrine. And you guys can go on my site and look up my shop. I have all of the content printed. I have an app that has all of that content inside of it as well. So you can reference all this, like different areas that essential oils help in the brain and with memory. I mean, everything. It's so incredible. So that's what they are. They're the most ancient medicines that we've ever had on this planet. We only started with modern stuff, modernly, right? Lately. But this is like the most ancient and historical documents that date back thousands of years showing medicinal uses of these. So I'm really passionate about helping people have something in their pocket to manage emotions. All of us experience emotions. We may experience different situations, but we experience emotions, shame, loss, grief, feelings of like wanting to die, like all these emotions. That's what we're here on earth to experience. Like there's nothing wrong with that, not judging ourselves for that. But the essential oils, what they do, they don't take away your emotion. But what they do is they help create an environment in your brain to where you can think and see clearly. So for example, if let's say you're stressed, and so when you're in a stress cycle in the body, you've got extra cortisol and norepinephrine and things firing. And have you guys ever been so stressed you forgot where you put your keys to your car? You're just like, I can't remember. So essential oil is going to come in and calm that environment, and you can go, okay, I can handle my day. You can choose to handle things versus being like overwhelmed. And so it kind of takes an overwhelmed mind to a centered, and then you still choose how you want to respond, how you're going to interact, and all those types of things. So that's why I'm so passionate about people having essential oils in their daily. I carry them on me daily, obviously, but in your daily mental health practice as well as in your purse and anywhere that you can put them. So that's a little bit on essential oils, and then I don't know. I'll go into the story if you want, unless you have something you want to add to that.
To add to that, not now, but I have one quick question, right? Are these oils in any way addictive?
Oh, good question. No, they're not, but that's a good question. So in order to be an addictive cycle, in general, addictions occur when you have something that makes your brain have to produce extra dopamine and extra dopamine receptors when you create extra dopamine. Okay, so like cocaine, for example, it excites your brain so much it surges your dopamine, and then your brain has to create extra dopamine receptors to respond to that, which is why you have to do more and more of the drug, because your extra dopamine receptors, you don't get as much as a high until you have extra dopamine that lingers. So essential oils don't cause an imbalance in that sense. They're very adaptogenic. So the best example I can tell you that makes it visual for everybody is essential oils are really good at killing off bad bacteria in the gut. And they do not kill off good bacteria, only bad. So generally you take like an antibiotic and it kills off all. It doesn't know how to distinguish, but nature does. And so it'll kill off bad bacteria, but it leaves the good intact. And so they do the same. Like if you need, in fact, research has shown, like when they have patients that they expose to stress and then they introduce an essential oil, it helps to produces these neurotransmitters that help reduce the stress. But the control group, they didn't introduce to stress, and they introduced the essential oil, and it did not make the brain produce extra, the extra neurotransmitters, because there was no stress. We don't need to. So they're really, really adaptogenic, which is why I love them. Any other questions before I?
Okay, so we don't turn this into a science class. I want us to circle back a little bit to the topic afterwards, what we are discussing, the suicide among young people. So someone asked a question here. She said, Quitty Benny, she said, how can I deal with a friend who recently had a suicide thought? So I want you to answer that alongside this other question, Anna had mentioned, Anna was on the live earlier. I don't know if she's still here. She had given us insights about losing her son earlier. So I just wanted us to talk about that a little bit. How to cope after losing someone to suicide. I know it's difficult for a lot of people. I know it's also triggering for some of them. But how can we cope? If you've lost someone, you've lost a friend, you've lost a family member to suicide, how can you cope around that?
Yeah. Oh, that is
I'm very
rough for anybody
busy.
who's, yeah, anybody's gone through that.
Hmm.
It's not easy. I think understanding the cycle of grief and that it 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 has ebbs and flows to it,
Hmm.
and that will help you understand where you're at. Like if you're angry or if you're just
Yeah.
sad and feeling hopeless, like the cycle of grief and just going, okay, I'm in the grief cycle and allowing
Hmm.
yourself that space
Hmm.
to feel grief and to experience and shed, the tears, the emotions, allowing that. Don't have any expectations on yourself in that. No judgment, just
Yeah.
love for that cycle of grief is one thing.
Yeah.
Another thing, this is kind of when you're ready for that step, is how can you find purpose from that pain? So, how can you turn that into something that really defines the future of your life? And that
Hmm.
might be, I just thought of a story of a kid who was drunk driving and killed a family. And all but
Wow.
the father lived, and he was in detention for years because of it. He was younger than 18, so he wasn't in jail, but
Yeah.
he was in a
So.
program. And when he got out of the program, he just said, I don't want this to ever happen to anybody else, because he had so much guilt, killed a pregnant mom and all the kids but
Wow.
the dad and one kid that was at home. And it was just so sad. And so he decided from then on out, he was going to go talk to teenagers about his
Mm.
experience and just and discourage them from drinking, let alone drinking and driving. And so
Hmm.
it was really so, and that's a very drastic, situation, obviously. So something that you can do, and be a part of that turns that pain into purpose. And I think that's almost honoring as well the person's life journey that you lost, and going, we're going to turn this into something that can really help other people. I think that's a big piece of it.
That is amazing. I completely, completely agree with you on that, especially when you're ready, channeling that into purpose, that is super important because most of the time um, when someone loses someone else, their whole thoughts, their whole everything is just focused on, oh, this person is gone. I'm never seeing this person again. I'm never having, this person. I would never see them laugh anymore. I would never see this. I would never see that. But the moment you kind of refocus your mind and kind of like find purpose in it, it kind of reminds you of the life this person had lived, how much they meant to you, the experiences you had with this person, instead of the fact that you've lost them completely. It kind of gives you like a whole new, it gives like a whole new door, to life. I think that's amazing. I think that's great. So like I said, this live session was going to be less than 40 minutes. So I did not keep Dr. Danielle or our guests who have attended. But if you guys would like, if you have questions for Dr. Danielle about essential oils and any of those things, you can just send her a DM on her. You see her handle right at the top of the Instagram live. But before I let you go, Doc, there's one more thing I would like to ask, right? So at Psych Babble, we offer free mental health care. So one of the services we offer is free counseling, and this is done virtually. So if pretty much from the comfort of your home, right? And it's to Africans, But we've also had people who are not Africans, reach out and they've also used the same service. So we have that in place. And people who, if someone is suicidal or they need an emergency service, there are quite some numbers that we have to call. We are not an emergency service system or any of those things, but we have numbers that you could call, people to refer you to. If you even check our Instagram bio, our profile, what's that thing called? Highlights. Yes, you would see someone that somewhere that says for emergencies. So we have numbers like that. So in your region, because I see some people who are joining this live from your community. So in your region, what are some of the emergency contacts or where people can get immediate help when there's someone who is suicidal or in an emergency situation?
Well, first, I just think it's great that you guys are doing that and providing that space for people. So that's amazing. Yeah, we have, it depends because we have, across the different states of United States, everything's so different. But we do have
Yeah.
and I cannot remember the number off the top of my head because I have California
Yeah, of
numbers.
course.
But a suicide hotline. All you have to do is search suicide hotline for the USA, and you can call that 24 hours a day. But there's also clinics that have that type of information too. So that's what I would suggest, though, just a national suicide hotline phone number.
Okay.
And I'm on my phone, or I'd look it up for you. But
That's
and I was
great.
just
That's
thinking we should do a training for you and your team there on essential oils and using them for
Yes.
mental health. We do
Yes.
that. It'd be fun and
You
get you
know I'm
guys
going to
going.
say yes. You
Yes,
know
I
I'm
know.
going to say yes.
We can now ship. We can now ship to you finally. So that's awesome from South
Finally.
Africa. Yeah, from South
Okay.
Africa.
So after this call, we'll talk via WhatsApp
Okay.
after this call. All right.
Oh, and
So
I wanted to share, I'm so sorry, but
no, go
that
ahead.
story, I did have someone come in. I mean, I've had many kids come in, but there was one specific that came in with suicide, and I used, so she had overdosed on trying to kill herself on crystal meth. And she came in my office on withdrawals from that and telling me that she was suicidal. And we used wild orange essential oil. I dropped it in her hand and had her inhale it. And as she inhaled it, her tremors from the withdrawals calmed down. And she mentally just got more clear. And we were able to talk more about why she wanted to commit suicide. And we were able to put her on a safety plan and get her to some help. So they do, like I said, create that environment in the brain that allows you
Yeah.
to think more clearly. It's not going to change how you think. You have to change how you think, but they're going to allow you to at least see things a little more clearly so you can make a better choice.
Okay, that is amazing. That is amazing. I cannot wait for us to talk about the shipping and the training and
Yes.
all of those things. I cannot wait for that.
Let's do it.
So lastly, Dr. D, how can people reach you before we go? How can they reach you?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, great question. So my Instagram is probably the best place to start. And if you tap on the link in the bio, you can go to download my app. I created an app with all of this content on mental health and essential oils.
Wow,
So my
that is
forte
amazing.
is mental health and aromatherapy. My specialty is teens, and my other specialty is PTSD. So you can get, a lot of that information on my page.
That is amazing. I hope I do get to read your book soon. I do not have it, yes, but I do hope I get to read it soon. I cannot wait. Um, so again, you guys, thank you so much for joining this month's topic. It doesn't end here. We'll have more content coming up all through the month of June. And most likely maybe have another Instagram live sessions where you all could, just chip in and have this conversation. So thank you again for showing up. And if you need a safe space, you need anyone to check in with you, you need to talk to someone about your mental health, about anything at all you have to do is send PsychBubbleNG a DM or thank you, Roxy. All you have to do is send us a
Hi,
DM or
Roxy.
just click the link in our bio and it takes you directly to how you could speak with a counselor. It's that simple. That's all you have to do. Very simple. All right. So just send us a DM or click the link in our bio and you have direct access to any of our counselors. Thank you again, Dr. Daniel. Thank you so much
Yeah.
for honoring our invitation. We look forward to having more conversations with you in the future.
Thank you. This has been a great, thanks for providing this platform for us to talk about this. And Anna,
Thank
thank you
you.
for sharing your story as well. Thank you so much for being
Please,
on. Bye, everybody.
please. Bye, Dr. Daniel. Thank you so
Bye.
much, Anna, again, for sharing your story. And you guys, thank you so much for joining. There was something I was going to mention. I forgot. Okay, yeah. This live would also be saved. It's also going to be on our YouTube channel, so you could, reference that or share all of this with your friends or family members. All right. Thank you guys so much and see you next one. Bye.
Bye bye.